As I set these notes on paper, I'm obsessed by the thought that I may be the last living man on Earth. I've been hiding in this empty house near Truex campus. A small island of daylight cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened before the arrival of these monstrous creatures in the world now seems part of another life. A life that has no continuity with the present. Furtive existence of some lonely derelict who pencils these words on the back of some astronomical notes bearing the signature of Richard Pierson. I look down at my blackened hands, my torn shoes, my tattered clothes, and I try to connect them with a professor who works at Madison College, and who glimpsed through his telescope an orange splash of light on a distant planet. My wife, my colleagues, my students, my books, my computer, my world. Where are they? Did they ever exist? Am I Richard Pierson? What day is it? Do days even exist without calendars? Does time pass when there are no human hands left to wind the clocks? In writing down my daily life, I shall preserve human history between the dark covers of this little book that was meant to record the movements of the stars. But to write, I must live. And to live, I must eat. I find moldy bread in the kitchen, and an orange not too spoiled to swallow. I keep watch at the window. From time to time, I catch sight of a Martian above the black smoke. The smoke still holds the house in its black coil. But at length there is a hissing sound, and suddenly I see a Martian mounted on his machine, spraying the air with a jet of steam, as if to dissipate the smoke. I watch in the corner, and his huge metal legs nearly brush against the house. Exhausted by the terror, I fall asleep. It's morning. Sun streams in the window. The black cloud of gas has lifted, and the scorched meadows to the north look as though a black snowstorm has passed over them. I venture from the house. I make my way to the road. No traffic. Here and there a wrecked car, baggage overturned, a blackened skeleton. I push on north. For some reason, I feel safer trailing these monsters than running away from them. And I keep a careful watch. I have seen the Martians feed. Should one of their machines appear over the top of the trees, I am ready to fling myself flat on the earth. I come to an apple tree. October apples are ripe. I fill my briefcase. I must keep alive. 2 days I wander into a vague northerly direction through a desolate world. Finally, I notice a living creature. A small gray squirrel in a maple tree. I stare at him and wonder. He stares back at me. I believe at the moment that the animal and I shared the same emotion. The joy of finding another living being. I push on north. I find dead cows in a brackish field. Beyond, the charred ruins of a dairy. The silo remains standing guard over the wasteland, like a lighthouse deserted by the sea. Astride the silo perches a weathercock. The arrow points north. Next day I come to a city vaguely familiar in its contours. Yet its buildings strangely dwarfed and leveled off, as if a giant hand sliced off its highest towers with a capricious sweep of his hand. I reached the outskirts. I found Sun Prairie, undemolished but humbled by some whim of advancing Martians, presently with an odd feeling of being watched. I caught a sight of something crouching in a doorway. I made a step towards it, and it rose up and became a man. A man, armed with a large knife.
Stop. Where did you come from?
I come from many places. A long time ago, I was a professor at Madison College.
Madison College, huh? That's ground zero.
Yes.
This is my country. This part of town all the way down to the water tower. There's only food for one. Which way are you going?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
What was that? Did you hear something just now?
Only a bird. A live bird.
You get to know that birds have shadows these days. Hey, we're in the open here. Let's crawl to this doorway and talk.
Have you seen any Martians?
Nah. They've gone over to Chicago. At night, the sky is still alive with their lights, just as if people were still living in it. By daylight, you can see them. 5 days ago, a couple of them carried something big across the flats from the airport. I believe they're learning how to fly.
Fly?
Yeah, fly.
Then it's all over for humanity. Stranger, there's still you and I. 2 of us left.
They got themselves in solid. They're dug in. They wrecked the greatest country in the world. Those green stars, they're probably falling somewhere every night. They've only lost one machine. There isn't anything to do. We're done. We're licked.
Where were you? You're in uniform.
Yeah, what's left of it. I was in the militia, the National Guard. But there wasn't any war any more than there's war between men and ants.
And we're eatable ants. I found that out. What will they do with us?
I've thought it all out. Right now, we're caught as we're wanted. The Martian only has to go a few miles to get a crowd on the run, but they won't keep doing that. They'll begin catching us systematic-like, keeping the best and storing us in cages and things. They haven't begun on us yet.
Not begun?
Yeah, that's what I said, not begun. All that's happened so far is because we don't have the sense enough to keep quiet, bothering them with guns and such stuff and losing our heads and rushing off in crowds. Now instead of our rushing around blind, we've got to fix ourselves up. And by fix ourselves up, I mean according to the way things are now. Cities, nations, civilization, progress, that's all done.
But if that's so, what is there to live for?
Well, there won't be any concerts for like 1,000,000 years or so, and no nice little dinners at restaurants. So, if it's amusement you're after, I guess the game's up.
And what is there left?
Life, that's what. I want to live. And so do you. We're not going to be exterminated. And I don't mean to be caught either, and tamed and fattened and bred like an ox.
What are you going to do?
I'm going on. Right under their feet. I got a plan. We men as men are finished. We don't know enough. We gotta learn plenty before we've got a chance. And we've gotta live and keep free while we learn, you know? I've thought it all out.
Tell me the rest.
Well, it isn't all of us that were made for wild beasts. And that's what it's gotta be. That's why I watched you. All these little office workers that used to live in these houses, they'd be no good. They haven't any stuff to them. They just used to run off to work. I've seen hundreds of them running wild to catch their bus in the morning for fear they'd get canned if they didn't, running back at night afraid they won't be in time for dinner, lives insured and a little invested in case of accidents, and on Sundays worried about the hereafter. The Martians will be a godsend for those guys. Nice, roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. After a week or so chasing about the fields on empty stomachs, they'll come and be glad to be caught.
You've thought it all out, haven't you?
You bet I have. And that isn't all. These Martians will make pets of some of them. Train them to do tricks. Who knows? Get sentimental over the pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. And some, maybe, they'll train to hunt us.
No, that's impossible. No human being.
Yes, they will. There's men who will do it gladly. If one of them ever comes after me,
In the meantime, you and I and others like us, where are we to live when the Martians own the Earth?
I've got it all figured out. We'll live underground. I've been thinking about the sewers. Under New York are miles and miles of them. The main ones are big enough for anybody. Then there's cellars, vaults, underground storerooms, railway tunnels, subways. You're beginning to see it, right? And we'll get a bunch of strong men together, no weak ones. That rubbish, they'll be out.
And you meant me to go?
Well, I gave you a chance, didn't I?
We won't quarrel about that. Go on.
And we've got to make safe places for us to stay in. And get all the books we can. Science books. That's where men like you come in. We'll raid the museums. We'll even spy on the Martians. It may be more than we've ever had to learn before, but just imagine this. 4 or 5 of their own fighting machines suddenly start up. Heat rays right and left, and not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them. But men. Men who have learned the way how. It may even be in our lifetime. Imagine having one of them beautiful machines with its heat ray wide and free. We'd turn it on the Martians. We'd turn it on men. We'd bring everyone down to their knees.
That's your plan?
Yeah, that's my plan. With you and me and a few more of us, we'd own the world.
I see.
Hey, what's the matter? Where are you going?
Not to your world. Goodbye, stranger. After parting ways with the artilleryman, I came back to Madison. I entered that silent city anxious to know it's my fate. Cautiously, I came out onto the streets and made my way. I reached East Washington, and there again were black powder and several bodies, and an evil, ominous smell from the gratings of the cellars of some of the houses. I wandered downtown. I sat alone on the square. I caught a sight of a lean dog running down Wisconsin Avenue with a piece of meat in its jaws, and a pack of starving mongrels at his heels. He made a wide circle around me, as though he feared I might prove a fresh competitor. I walked up State Street, in the direction of that strange powder, past silent shop windows, displaying their mute wares to empty sidewalks, past the Orpheum Theater, silent, dark, from over the top of Bascom Hill. I watched the flock of black birds circling in the sky. I hurried on. Suddenly I caught a sight of a hood of a Martian machine, standing in the street, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. An insane idea. I rushed recklessly across and I climbed the small hill. From there I could see, standing in the silent row of 19 of those great metal titans, their cowls empty, their great steel arms hanging listlessly by their sides. I looked in vain for the monsters that inhabit those machines. Suddenly my eyes were attracted to the immense flock of blackbirds that hovered directly below me. They circled to the ground, and there before my eyes, stark and silent, lay the Martians, with the hungry birds pecking and tearing shreds of flesh from their dead bodies. Later, when their bodies were examined in the laboratories, it was found that they were killed by bacteria against which their systems were unprepared. Slain after all man's defense had failed by the humblest of things. Before the cylinder fell, there was a general persuasion that through all the deep of space, no life existed beyond the pretty surface of our minute sphere. Now we see further. Dim and wonderful is the vision I have conjured up in my mind of life spreading slowly from this little seedbed of the solar system throughout the inanimate vastness of space. But that is a remote dream. It may be that the destruction of the Martians is only reprieve. To them, and not to us, is the future Ordained, perhaps. Strange it now seems to sit in my peaceful office at Madison College, writing down this last chapter of the record begun at Overflow parking lot. Strange to see from my window the trees dim and blue through an April haze. Strange to watch children playing in the streets. Strange to see young people strolling on the green, where the new spring grass heals the last black scars of bruised earth. Strange to watch the sightseers enter the museum where the disassembled parts of the Martian machine are kept on public view. Strange when I recall the time when I first saw it. Bright and clean cut, hard and silent, under the dawn of the last great day.
This is Jessica Pokrandt, ladies and gentlemen, here to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as a holiday offering was intended to be. Do not panic. Do not become hysterical. Please do not cloud the New Jersey turnpikes. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it. And this is our version of a joke. Madison College is still open for business. So goodbye, everybody. I have to go home and finish my homework. And remember, if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian. It's Halloween.
Clarion Radio and its affiliated stations have brought you The War of the Worlds, based on the radio program by Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater, based on the novel by H.G. Wells. We now return you to our regular programming. This is Clarion Radio. Thanks for listening.